What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we are coming up for a week since the release of Surging Sparks. So this is traditionally where I come along and I say, right, set's been out a week. Oh look, prices are crashing. Now that the set's actually out and the singles are readily available and everyone can go and buy as much as they like, the price of single cards is crashing down hilariously, and now we can all start to consider thinking about going and buying some singles. Well, we're going to get to that video in this video, but I don't think we can get to that video in this video without talking about this thing. This thing is, of course, Pikachu EX. Pikachu EX is not playing along. I mean, if we have a look at the graph from TCG Player here, it has since release jumped up from about a $300 card to about a $600 card. It has gone dumb, ladies and gentlemen. It has gone dumb. And it's not like this is just a TCG Player thing. The other day I showed you eBay and I went, oh look, people are paying like $400 for this Pikachu. That's way too high. Incidentally, I mean, look, I showed my working in the video the other day. I don't just want to repeat what I said in my video the other day, but it is too high. Like the Moonbryon took a long time to get this high. Moonbryon was not this high this quickly. You know, look at the Charizard from 151, which is a big Scarlet and Violet Alt Art Charizard. That is not up to this level yet, and it only started rising fairly recently. Essentially, what's happening with the Pikachu is what I told you the other day. It shouldn't be this high, but the community as a whole is like, whoa, new Pikachu, and it's just pushing it this high. So it shouldn't be this high, but it's being pushed this high, which means it should be this high. And unfortunately, it's now gaining steam, and this is probably going to keep going, but there's no reason this Pikachu should be this high. When you compare it to cards like the Moonbryon from Evolving Skies, like the Charizard from 151, it shouldn't be this high. No card should be this high on release, but essentially enough people went, it's Pikachu, it's going to be a $400 card, so they made it a $400 card. And then enough other people are going, yeah, but it should be higher than that, and then people keep paying more than that, and it keeps rising. There's no precedent for this, and if you look at similar cards over the past few years, this shouldn't be happening, but it's going to keep happening. But if we have a quick look at eBay here, we can have a little bit of a look at what people are paying now, and it's going up, frankly, ladies and gentlemen. It's still going up. If we have a look at the most recent solds here, we've got ourselves a 540, a 600, including the full art, but the full art is not worth all that much, frankly. And then we've got ourselves a 750. And these are not best offer accepted. These are actual sales. So this is a weird card to look at. Everything we've seen from years of the Pokemon TCG tells us that no card, no matter how playable, no matter how popular, no matter how wonderful artwork, no card should be this high. We could look at what's happening over in Japan with the equivalent sets, and Pikachu is expensive, but it's nowhere near this much. There is no reason that we can point to with any recent card or anything like that that tells us Pikachu should be this high and rising. But the community as a whole just keeps paying more and more for it, and that is going to keep pushing the price up. Even though it doesn't really make sense, even though it logically shouldn't be happening, given everything we know and the mountains of data we've got from other English sets and the equivalent Japanese set, none of that matters because enough people are just pushing the price up. And that's what's happening to Pikachu. The good news is, if we look at the rest of the set here, the rest of the set is actually doing what it should be doing. The rest of the set is behaving itself quite nicely. So the other day, I showed you Latias Appeal, and I showed you that people were paying up to like $200 for this card. There was one that was actually bought for $385, which is obviously absurd. So what are we looking at today in terms of Latias Appeal? Yeah, the last couple of solds are like $70 and $80, which is still too high. Incidentally, no supporter card is that high right now. But Pikachu is going to have a knock-on effect, because Pikachu being so expensive is going to make the set as a whole far more sought after, and that means that a lot of other cards are going to get a bit of a bump because the set as a whole gets more expensive, which is going to boost the singles as a whole. But we can have a look at the graph here from TCG Player as well, and what we see here is exactly what we would expect to see. Pre-sales of 160, it's gone down to 77. The second the set actually dropped, the price of this properly dropped. And this is what we generally tend to see. Pikachu is a massive outlier, and it is very interesting to me to consider what's going to happen now with other sets moving forward. Are we going to see other cards from other sets taken and pushed up? Because it happened with Greninja. There is no reason Greninja should be as high as it is, but the community as a whole just went, let's push it. And that is exactly what has happened. Now, Latias EX is actually a card I didn't show you the other day. Although it is a phenomenal card, it's the Okacheke artwork. It's actually the most playable EX in the set. And this is another one which is frankly a little bit too expensive. If we have a look at the early sales of Latias back when it initially came out, we're generally talking around about $200. That is about what people were paying for Latias. And here's the interesting thing about Latias. The last couple of sales are coming in at around about $180. I suppose we could say it's a little bit lower, but I think the only way to phrase it is a little bit lower. It's not actually taken a huge drop like that. There was a point a couple of days ago where it was actually dropping quite nicely. Here's a couple in a row selling for 145, but I mean, look, let's have a look at the TCG player graph. It actually shows it really nicely for this card. It dropped quite a bit on release and then rebounded. And the issue with this one is, well, there's several things going on with Latias here. Firstly, phenomenal artwork. Remember, it connects with the Latios, and connecting cards always push each other up. Secondly, we've got the whole it's the best EX in the set in terms of playability and how much is actually seeing play and all of that. It's the best EX in the set. But we've also got the Pikachu bump. The fact that Pikachu is going so high is pushing all of the other cards much higher. And it means that, we're seeing Lizia's appeal still higher than it should be. It means that Latias is not dropping like we would generally expect. And it's still gone down a little bit since release, but make no mistake about it, Latias is holding on quite nicely, and because Pikachu as a whole is pushing Surging Sparks up, that means that Latias is going to just keep on keeping on for a little while. But these are the exception cards. The set as a whole is doing what we would expect it to do. Take a look at Hydreigon, for instance. Here's a graph over on TCG Player. It's dropped down nicely to a $90 card. Hydreigon is one of the cards I most want from the set. It's Latias and Hydreigon for me. They are the two big ones. It's because of the artists. Akira Igawa does Hydreigon, and it's absolutely stunning. But these cards are still doing exactly what we would generally expect to see. Hydreigon is dropping quite nicely. It's still expensive, but it's dropping quite nicely. Something like a Alolan Executor, another very nice card, beautiful artwork and all of that. But you look at the TCG player graph and it's already dropped down to like a $53 card. And you'll notice we're not seeing a gradual drop here. We're seeing what we would generally expect to see on the release of a set. We are seeing the card absolutely crashing. But of course we are, because that's what always tends to happen. Latias is a little bit of an exception. Pikachu is a giant exception. But the set as a whole is still doing exactly what we would generally expect to see. If we go back to the early sales of your Alolan Executor, they're on eBay. They're all selling for like $100, with somebody paying $200 for one, which is obviously way too high for all the reasons I've explained over and over again. But nowadays, like if we look at the most recent sales of this Alolan Executor over on eBay, we're seeing like a $60, $65 card, one sold for $72. It's dropping quite nicely. Surging Sparks as a whole is dropping. But I'm not going to do that thing where I ignore the couple exceptions and come here and tell you the set as a whole's dropping. I'm going to do that thing like I've done where I come and I say, hey, look, there are a couple of exceptions. But then the set as a whole is dropping quite nicely. Latias is at least incredibly playable. Pikachu ain't that playable, frankly. But it's Pikachu, so it is being pushed up quite nicely. Oh, and I should mention there is actually one other exception. You can all probably guess what the other exception is. It's Gold Pika. Gold Pika's jumping up as well, which shouldn't really surprise anyone. This is something else which is happening. It's not really happening with the full art, because with the full art, the pull rates are still kind of high. But the gold cards, as I showed you the other day, the gold cards are actually rarer than the special illustration rares. We've got a set where the set as a whole is getting hyped, and it's partly because of the special illustration rare Pikachu, and the gold Pikachu is not as cool, but it's another Pikachu in the same set with an extremely low pull rate, so that is very much going to happen. A few days ago, like, here's 3 sales in a row for 71, 65, and 75. So 3 days ago, about 5 days ago as I record this, you're talking about like a $70-ish card. Not cheap by any stretch, but not hideously expensive and very much dropping down. That was lower than the original sales. But then we see a similar kind of thing going on here, whereby nowadays the last 3 sales are 100, 120, and 95. There are only 3 exceptions that I'm really seeing here, and it is Special Illustration Rare Pika, Gold Pika, Special Illustration Rare Latias. The rest of the set is dropping precipitously, exactly as we would generally expect to see. But this is all Special Illustration Rare Pika. That card is getting ridiculously hyped. So that is pushing the set as a whole up. And then this other Special Illustration Rare EX and this other Pikachu are getting a bump because the set as a whole is getting hyped. So there we go. That's your explanation. That's what's happening. So now it's over to you guys. Have you pulled these cards from Surging Sparks? Are you excited? Are you picking up singles? Are you overpaying? Let me know in the comment section. Go nuts. Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi. That's where we talk about Pokemon and a whole bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all kinds of fun things. And get shout outs on the channel like the lovely Eric Ridgway, who's been a supporter of ours for a while now and is a very lovely person. So shout out to them for the support and the loveliness. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.